And tonight on Joy News Prime, fresh gunshots in the Boku municipality less than 24 hours after authorities imposed a 14-hour curfew in response to the threat of chieftaincy-linked violence.
The military intelligence in Boku have decided to place them at those points, those flash points, to be able to forestall or prevent the occurrence of a possible security
There's a push also tonight to get the General Secretary of the NPP, John Boydu, cited for contempt for daring the Speaker of Parliament to collect the road tolls himself.
Directive operationalization of Mbrano and all regularizing.
Later tonight, we'll find out why the people of Busa South are warning their NP not to set a foot in the constituency.
As a member of Parliament for Busa South, my constituents have told me that should I make the mistake of voting in favor of this budget, I should remain in Accra.
And coming up in business.
The World Bank touts Ghana as having an opportunity to accelerate economic transformation and create more jobs in the future.
Despite relatively low infection rates, the 2022 budget, recently presented by the Minister of Finance, charts an ambitious course to support job creation in a fiscally sustainable manner.
We have details of these and more in the next 2 hours. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our studios here at Kukumlemle in Accra. We're live on DSTV, channel 421, GoTV at 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. I'm Ernest Minu. Thanks for choosing us. And there have been fresh reports of gunshots in the Boku municipality less than 24 hours after authorities imposed a 14-hour curfew in response to the threat of chieftaincy-linked violence. Heavily armed police and military troops have been deployed to prevent violence following the gunshots the previous day. The municipal chief executive, Amadou Hamza Zanga, says specific flashpoints have been identified where more troops will be stationed.
With the number of security personnel that we have, as in both in terms of the military and in terms of the police, and it wasn't adequate enough. So yesterday, we took a decision to call for more security to come from Tamale, and we also was able to contact the Interior Minister, and then the Defense Minister, and then the Defense Minister made sure that there was a helicopter that brought some troops to Boku. And so we have various positions that usually the combatant takes place in those areas. And so we on our side, together with the military intelligence and Boku, have decided to place them at those points, those flash points, to be able to forestall or prevent the occurrence of a possible security issue. Tradition comes as a matter of rights. Rights are not absolute. There's no fundamental human rights that are absolute. There are limitations to the enjoyment of those rights. And so if the situation calls for certain measures to be taken, there's a need for us to know that some measures can be taken at the municipal level, at the regional level, and also at the national level. And so a measure like that to prevent people from wearing their smocks is not any novelty. It's not a new thing. Boku has not known peace. And since 1957 upwards. And so it's a measure that we use it. And so it's not a new thing. The people of Boku understand this. So many years back, they have employed the same measure, preventing people from not wearing their smocks. And the rationale behind it is to ensure that persons who pick up their guns and hide it in their smocks to use it to perpetrate violence are seen. And so, and when they are caught, the full rigors of the law would work on you. And so this is why we are using that measure to be able to prevent any occurrence of the conflict.
And some residents of Boku have been speaking to Joy News.
Miss Anana, what do you throw your young papa? So, baby, what you man, no more, no more, flow, two for says, Can't you almost have four so your quarter of 4 o'clock, young Tongue, your muscle never school, your muscle for your farm of you. That's it, no, you may maybe or more. See, I want first to the phone, no point to careful in your own mind. Crying because of the curfew. We can't go to school. Schools are locked. Pregnant women, everybody is crying because of the curfew.
Curfew is affecting us in town because if you put us the curfew right now, and we go inside, and those the outskirts, they are riding their motorbikes, doing bad things all over, burning people's things, spoiling people's things. Yeah, but in town here we don't have that thing. We can't do anything. So we are sitting down. They have to change the time. They have to change the time. Make it like 10.
You lift itself.
Lift it out, because if you give us the time like 6 or 4, you are rising the tension up. You yourself, like the security men and those people who are doing it, they also need what is going on.
Let's go live to Bokuna. Albert Sori joins us on the line with more on the situation. Albert, let's start with the situation itself following that gunshot, fresh report of gunshots in some of the flashpoint. How volatile is the situation right now?
Yes, so at the moment it is curfew hours, so there isn't any cause for alarm. Okay. This morning, when the day was beginning, it appeared that everybody was going about their normal everyday activity until shortly before midday, when some sporadic gunshots were heard in some of the Boko suburbs. What we learned was that following those gunshots, parents started rushing to the schools to ask the teachers to allow them to take their wards home. And so after a while, the teachers felt that, well, if all the parents are coming for their kids, then they may as well just close the school so they can go home. So the closure of the schools today, not every school was affected, but the schools in the areas where the gunshots were heard. And this, I must say, is not a directive from the Ghana Education Service or anything yet. So the children are expected to go back to school tomorrow. If there isn't any further directive. But looking at what happened this afternoon, I doubt that the children will be returning to school tomorrow. But there was reinforcement from the Regional Security Council. Even though there were police and military presence in the area, more men had to be called in to try and calm things down. So at the moment, everything is okay. There haven't been any casualties. It was just gunshots in the air that people heard.
Curfew itself, we had a while ago some of the residents say they think that the timing is not right. Some of them wanted lifted altogether. What is the level of compliance as far as the curfew is concerned?
Yes, everybody will have to comply with the curfew, I must say. These people that were complaining were talking to us just before the gunshots were heard at midday. These interviews were had before the gunshots today. Now, one of the things that we realized talking to the residents was that a lot of them didn't get time to prepare for the curfew. The curfew was announced yesterday afternoon, and it had to take immediate effect. So there were people who didn't even hear about it initially until it was getting to very close to the curfew hours. There are people who told us that they didn't even get the opportunity to have dinner because they thought they would have their normal evenings out, and it turned out that after 4 p.m. they couldn't go out. So they went to bed without having their dinner yesterday. So this was generally why the residents thought that they needed to extend the curfew hours, maybe to 6 p.m. and then, allow them time. There were also those who are workers, especially those who work in the health sector, who feel that now it is going to make their going to work very difficult, because then you will have to arrive, if you are working in the night shift, which starts between 6 and 7 p.m., you will have to get there before 4 p.m. in order to be able to beat the curfew time. And for those who work in the afternoon, they also have to close early so they can get home before the 4 p.m. curfew hours. These are the difficulties, but the municipal chief executive feels that this is what they need to do to ensure the security and the protection of life and property. So the people will just have to, manage with the situation.
Absolutely, this definitely has ripple effects. But Albert, in the midst of the gunshots that we are hearing and the military deployment, do we know if anybody has been picked up by the police or if they are on a search for some persons in particular?
The regional minister has indicated this evening that they are not going to spare anybody who is caught trying to cause any mayhem. One of the things that that came up in the course of all of this is the ban on the wearing of smokes, which some of the residents have also been talking about, because the Regional Security Council feels that people hide their arms under the smoke because of how big it is when you wear it. They are easily able to hide weapons under there. So the people feel that the ban is in the right direction. But RECSEC and the security agencies have indicated strongly that anybody who is caught will not be spared. At the moment, we have not heard of any arrests whatsoever yet.
Albert, thank you very much for the update. That's correspondent Albert Sorry bringing us an update on the situation in Boko following the curfew that has been imposed there. Away from Boko, the ranking member on the Roads and Transport Committee of Parliament, Kwame Adboja, wants Parliament to haul before it the General Secretary of the governing New Patriotic Party, John Boadu, and Senior Presidential Advisor, Yao Osafo-Mafo. The Adaklu MP alleges that the two made comments that undermine the authority of the Speaker and in contempt of the House, and this in relation to Alban Badman's directive to the Roads Minister on the cessation of road tolls. Before we hear from Kwame Adboja on this, let's listen to John Boadu, who made the comment, which has drawn the attention of the Adaklu MP.
So I'm directive ntokobesi ewo tobuto enyemrano no yiye or say operationalization of emrano and all regularizing no wanye sa ka confusion na ebesi woto because omo moti on beka so mo beje omo road users no so beka say yentua na ya announce enu ti no yen suspended na sabi speaker no kan no ade no no ankasa amehwe mankofo entuetua.
So that's John Boadu essentially saying that the roads minister needed to do that to avoid confusion at the road tolls, and that if the speaker thought it's necessary to still go ahead with the collection of road tolls, he perhaps could do it himself. Now, we can hear from Mr. Adboja, who was enraged by the comment and wants the House to take action.
The people, you can be so heartless. You sack the people, yet you put it in your budget as an achievement. This morning, those disabled people, those young mothers, fathers who have been selling around the toll booth, show me where they are working this morning that you are using them as an achievement in your budget. Where are they working? How heartless can you be as a government? Mr. Speaker, to add to it, the road minister is a senior member of this House, Mr. Speaker. I take strong exception to the fact that he beat a law in this country. He beat a law by arrogating to himself the right to determine whether we collect taxes or not. And when Mr. Speaker gave a directive that the road minister, who is also a lawyer, should backtrack and do the right thing, the road minister refused. Rather, senior members of the New Patriotic Party have sought to denigrate this House. Mr. Speaker, not too long ago, Black Rasta said something about this House. He was held before here. So what is the difference between what Black Rasta did and what John Boadu did in Central Region by telling you, Mr. Speaker, that if you want to collect the tolls, you should go to the toll booths and collect the tolls yourself? Why is John Boadu not being hauled before Parliament? The senior minister said that if Mr. Speaker doesn't know that the road minister can refuse to collect the tax, then Mr. Speaker doesn't know what he's doing. Let me ask. Listen, let me ask you. Ask you. What is the difference between what we did to Professor Dobu and Senior Minister? Mr. Speaker, why is Mr. Senior Minister not being hauled before this House for his misconduct against this?
Well, he took his stand during the contribution of and the debate of the 2022 budget. The Adaklu MP observed that the failure by the House to hold the two before it would pave way for others to subject the legislature to ridicule.
Mr. Speaker, if we don't take action against John Boedu and senior minister in the future, it will be difficult for any citizen to understand why Parliament will bring them here to be able to do something. Mr. Speaker, I challenge this House to make sure that John Boedu and senior minister are held before the Privileges Committee of this House. Mr. Speaker, I have no reason to believe that this government has lost its track. This government is not on course, and the e-levy Baumia tax has nothing to do with development of this country. It's just to give more money to the government to keep wasting. And for this reason, I call on all people in this country to support Parliament. For the Speaker to insist that the right thing is done. And all those members of the New Patriotic Party who want to undermine the Speaker by telling him to go and collect the toll booth should know that the days are coming where the powers that be, the principalities that work to undermine the Parliament shall fall, and Parliament will be able to stand and do whatever we are supposed to do.
Well, this new push for contempt comes more than a week after the Speaker himself threatened to cite the Minister, Kwesi Amoakwata, for contempt. Here's a Newsdesk report.
Last week, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, directed the Roads and Highways Minister to retract the statement on the cessation of road tolls. He sternly stated that the minister had no power to do so. This was after the minority leader described the action as one usurping the powers of the Parliament.
I am submitting strongly that this House must take a serious view of the conduct and directive of the Minister for Roads, as is an attempt to usurp the powers and mandate of this august House. And Mr. Speaker, to suggest as if this country is not governed by law, it cannot. Whilst he has every right to be in a hurry, to listen to the President's directives, to be in a hurry, he cannot be in a hurry to usurp the mandate of this House and be in a hurry to revise a legislation that this august House have not so approved.
So it's for us to draw his attention and tell him that you have no such authority. In spite of all the legal and linguistic gymnastics that have been displayed, it is very clear that what the minister sought to do, he has no such authority to do that. It's not a matter of operationalization of the law. And so I want to clearly direct that what the minister has released is complete brutum fulmin. It means it's an empty boast. It has no effect. So I think that is proper for us to direct the minister, a member of this House, in fact, a senior member of this House. He's not just a junior member, he's a senior member of this House, who is used to all this. And I think that he might have reacted wrongly. And therefore, I call on him to honorably withdraw that directive.
The majority leader, however, disagreed with the Speaker, questioning his authority to direct a Minister of State in that manner.
The minister wanted to save the situation as to whether it conformed to legality. That was another matter. That is another matter. But the minister acted timeously to save life and property. Mr. Speaker, that is why the directive was not about the suspension of the law. The minister could not have suspended the law. He only dealt with the operationalization of the law in place.
Shortly after that, the Buakwa South MP, Samuel Atachia, said the Speaker had no power to cite the Minister for contempt of the House.
I'm of the humble view that this is not a resolution of Parliament. Parliament did not resolve that the Minister should retract his statement.
No, but the Speaker was clear.
The Speaker says so.
Yeah.
But the Speaker is not Parliament. You see, a resolution of Parliament is a decision taken by the House.
But the Speaker is the head of Parliament, isn't he?
He's a referee, but he doesn't give directives to Parliament as to ethics. He will be sit in his office or say that this is my will. The will of Parliament should evolve from the members of Parliament via a resolution. To that extent, I'm of the view that there's no resolution of Parliament that has been handed down, the disobedience of which will amount to contempt of Parliament. What is worse, mind you, this is where the laws of this nation is made.
Right.
And to condemn a man without hearing him flouts the natural justice principle. It's called the audi alteram patem principle. So therefore, if you look at it from the perspective that the minister was never heard, then a judgment against him without hearing will not stand in law. And that is very, very unfortunate.
The minority described the utterances of the majority as an attempt to undermine the authority of the Speaker. It's exactly a week since the Speaker ordered the Roads Minister to retract the cessation of road tolls. Clearly, the Speaker's directive has been ignored. Will there be a bite after the bag?
Let's speak to Kwame Adboja. His MP for Adaklo joins us on the line. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Joy News Prime. And so, a number of directives coming from the Speaker being ignored, including the threat of contempt. What do you say to those who say the minority is simply interested in blowing hot air?
Well, good evening to you, my brother. Good evening to your cherished listeners. Well, it should be known to every Ghanaian that if we effectively undermine the Speaker and authority of Parliament, then we do not have a democracy. Because the only thing that makes a difference between a democracy and a despotic state is Parliament. There's a reason the Constitution of Ghana provides for us to have a Parliament that is a check on the excesses of the executive. Exactly the kind of things that the road minister has been doing. Whether it's the award, a unilateral award of a $570 million contract to an illegitimate foreign company without recourse to Parliament, whether it's his order to stop the collection of toll, which will lead to the loss of 10 million Ghana cedi to the state just because he decided to arrogate to himself power he doesn't have. But let's go to the primary issue. I heard Honorable, my very good friend, Honorable Atachia saying Speaker is wrong. Nobody placed a motion on the floor regarding this issue. The minority leader came under, I think, under 70, a standing order, basically, asking that there was an issue of urgent nature that must be heard by Speaker. And this is not the first time. In fact, even that last week, there was an issue of a breach in Adentan constituency, which my colleague Honorable Ramadan, needed urgently. He couldn't get it. Out of that, a child fell into the ditch and died. Well, after he brought this to the attention of Mr. Speaker directed that the road ministry should take urgent steps to remedy the situation. It didn't come by a resolution from Parliament. So those who are saying that just because it's not a resolution from Parliament voted on by members, Speaker cannot give directives, they should go back and see the record and proceedings in Parliament. We have done this a million times. So what is more important is that the whole of Parliament, including the majority, accept that the road minister has offended. All they are saying is that they don't know whether it is important enough for whether Speaker's directive should be taken. Then Mr. Speaker's directives must be taken. If Mr. Speaker or members of Parliament find something wrong, there's no ambiguity in the fact that what the road minister did was wrong. If you read what the finance minister said, he said clearly that when Parliament approves the budget, the rate for the toll on our road will be accelerated.
And Mr. Aduja, that is not in doubt at all. In fact, we've heard from some of the leadership of the majority agree with you on this, except that they do not agree on the path the Speaker chose to try and redress the issue. The crux of today's conversation is why the minority, concerned about attempts, you say, by the other side to undermine the authority of the Speaker, not urging him to take action, crack the whip on some of these issues that he finds are of contempt to the House?
Well, you see, Parliament, we work as a team. We work in collaboration. I am of the view that the New Patriotic Party is very uncomfortable with Honourable Speaker, Honourable Bagby. So they have decided to mount an all-round attack on him, right from the party and everywhere. And it's upon the NDC and the rest of the country to decide to protect the sanctity of Parliament and to make sure that nobody is asking Speaker to act outside of the law. And he didn't do that. So we see this as an attempt to undermine Parliament, and we will have to advise ourselves accordingly as well. As for this issue, it's quite clear. To the extent, my brother, look at it. They tell you that all this hula baloo about the road minister took a decision to avert possible loss of life and property. You and I know it's a palpable lie. There was no incident anywhere in this country after the announcement.
Mr. Aduja, because we're running out of time on this, just a quick one. Will you push through with this issue of contempt, hauling before the House, the NPP's General Secretary and Senior Advisor to the President, Yao Safo-Mafo? Will you push this through?
Yes, I believe whatever they've done is equal to what Black Rasta and then Professor Dodu did, and they must come before the House. But in my personal view, we are giving them the opportunity to either retract and apologize to Parliament, failure to which Speaker have already directed that they'll be cited. Well, let's see what happens going forward.
Very well. I'm grateful for your time. That's the MP for Adaklu, Kwame Governs Abuja. We stay in Parliament because the ranking member on the Education Committee, Clement Apak, says his constituents have warned him not to set a foot in the constituency if he votes in support of the approval of the 2022 budget. According to him, his constituents have asked him to remain in Accra if he in any way supports the obnoxious taxes in the 2022 budget. The Bulsa South NP argues that in spite of the enormous resources injected into the education sector, the current administration has little to show for. Contributing to the budget debate in the House, Clement Apak insisted the minority will not in any way support the approval of the budget.
And let's be honest and blunt and truthful. Any serious and objective mind who has followed and monitored the evolution of our country's education since the MPP took over the reins of this country would come to the conclusion that today our educational system can be described as a caricature. Mr. Speaker, I'll say so because my able ranking member has already elucidated and demonstrated how basic education has suffered and continues to suffer. Mr. Speaker, the suffering is not only confined to basic education, but even tertiary education is also facing similar neglect. Mr. Speaker, a lot of attention and resources have gone towards the implementation and sustenance of the free senior high school. But even there, with the quantum of resources applied, we are still bedeviled with the challenges that we want our colleagues on the other side to pay heed to and to address, to which they refused. 5 years down the line, Charles, NAGRA, Africa Education Watch, almost every stakeholder, besides government and its appointees, agree that it is not well with our educational system, and particularly secondary education. Mr. Speaker, by and large, this debate has been reduced to taxes and whether or not we should support the 1.75 e-levy. Our side has been very clear, and we are not going to budge. It is not going to matter the level of intimidation, coercion, or even enticements. We will reject this budget. We cannot vote for this budget. Because this is not a budget that gives Ghanaians hope. As a member of Parliament for Butsasam, my constituents have told me that should I make the mistake of voting in favor of this budget, I should remain in Accra. And I will not remain in Accra. They sent me here to work on their behalf. Their instructions are very clear.
But in a sharp rebuttal, the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Educhim, noted the individuals opposed to the budget have little appreciation of the policy document, insisting the budget inspires hope.
All that I want Ghanaians to know, that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has a vision second to none in terms of education. As I said on the floor of the Parliament, I have heard some colleagues of mine talking about this budget belongs in the dustbin. But I believe this budget will belong to the National Education Hall of Fame when one day we build it. The name Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will be etched in gold in the National Education Hall of Fame the day that we build it. And so will the name Ken Ofori-Atta, the Honorable Minister, be etched in gold the day that we build our National Education Hall of Fame, because this is laying a strong foundation for the Ghanaian economy to be competitive. We talk about 5 STEM universities, 5 STEM universities, so that all those new regions without universities will also claim a university. And when I hear some colleagues talking about their constituents have told them never to vote for this budget, and if they vote, they should stay in Accra. My response is that maybe you have not read the budget to your constituents. And if you have read it with them, they would rather tell you stay in Accra until the budget is approved, because our hopes and our future is in this budget. This budget is going to take Ghana to a new level where we can compete with the rest of the world.
This is Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Mino. Still to come in business, Ghana rising. The World Bank touts the country as having opportunity to accelerate economic transformation and create better jobs.
Despite relatively low infection rates, the 2022 budget, recently presented by the Minister of Finance, charts an ambitious course to support job creation in a fiscally sustainable manner.
In business, Ghana has an opportunity in the coming decades to accelerate economic transformation and create more better jobs after navigating the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's a revelation from the World Bank's latest economic analysis for the country. Now, the report said Ghana can achieve this through fostering greater global integration, technological transformation, as well as macroeconomic stability and financial sector development. We have more in this report.
The World Bank's latest economic analysis themed Country Economic Memorandum, Ghana Rising, Accelerating Economic Transformation and Creating Higher Quality Jobs. According to the report, Ghana has all it takes to continue being an economic development star if it takes the right steps to nurture growth and job creation. Listen to World Bank's Country Director Pierre Laporte.
This report comes at a particularly critical time. The COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know, has led to reversals in development gains throughout the world, and its impact on Ghana has been no exception. Despite relatively low infection rates, the 2022 budget, recently presented by the Minister of Finance, charts an ambitious course to support job creation in a fiscally sustainable manner. Our hope is that this report can support this vision with evidence-based policy analysis. As Ghana looks at how to promote a more inclusive and resilient recovery post-COVID pandemic, this report provides important recommendations for how economic transformation and leveraging enablers of growth can drive long-term growth, boost productivity, and meet the country's job challenges in an inclusive way.
Speaking at the launch of the report, Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta divulged that government is implementing some projects in the sum of $400 million, which would create an estimated 300,000 jobs.
I would like to also thank the World Bank for supporting us in being able to capitalize the Development Bank of Ghana. It was against a trend of anti-development bank thinking, but the World Bank found a way to do that. And today we have about $800 million as a first start, and the Central Bank gave us our license 2 weeks ago. Government is also implementing the World Bank funded Ghana Economic Transformation Project and the Ghana Jobs and Skills Project in the sum $400 million, designed to support Ghana's economic transformation and create an estimated 300,000 jobs.
The report also said Ghana faces an urgent need to repair the link between growth and poverty reduction. This is because the impact of growth on poverty reduction has declined over the past 3 decades. Here's David Elmale, senior economist with the World Bank in Ghana.
Growth in itself interests us, but that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal, at least viewed from the World Bank point of view, is poverty reduction, is that this growth trickles down to people. And so what we look here is the poverty reduction performance of Ghana. And here it's really an important message. And the fact is that this link between growth and poverty reduction has been, if not broken, damaged, distended. So in the 90s, despite the slow growth, we had very good poverty reduction, about 2% per year. In the late 90s, early 2000, dropped to 1.4, then to 1.1 after 2005, and then to 0.2 in the period 2012 to 2016. And what is worrisome is that at the bottom you see the gross poverty elasticity. What that tells you is that for 1 point of growth, how much you reduce poverty, and that number has gone down too.
Now, the entity responsible for leading quality under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area, the African Organization for Standardization, has been tasked to develop a single quality policy to aid smooth trading under the pact. According to the chairman of the Select Committee on Trade, Carlos Ahenkra, this is part of efforts to remove several barriers to trade and improve the ease of doing business on the continent. He spoke at the 65th ASO Council meeting held in Accra.
By and large, it's important that we all stick to one quality policy, come up with one standard document, and ensure that as far as EFCFTA is concerned, we're not going to leave any country out, or we're not going to leave any holes within the general supply chain for countries to suffer. And that responsibility for me would lie on the heads of the ASO, or the African Standardization Organization, which is having its council meeting, the 65th council meeting here today, the reason why we're here. I would like to entreat them to ensure that before they leave this meeting, before they complete whatever discussions that they're going to have, they should ensure that a charter to guide every African country, all African countries, to come up with one composite document as far as standardization is concerned, is arrived at before they leave this meeting. And I know that with the caliber of people in there and the interest shown by most African countries, head of states, I'm sure that they're going to do that.
Meanwhile, Director General of the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Alex Dodu, has also initiated talks to express commitment to ensure standards under the pact are respected.
Be aware that ASO has signed up to lead standards for the AFCFTA, and that if AFCFTA succeeds, ASO will succeed. If ASO succeeds, Africa will succeed. So for ASO, the success of AFCFTA is not negotiable. We will make the African Continental Free Trade Area work. We pledge that to our heads of government, we pledge that to the African Union, and we pledge that to ourselves.
That'll be it for business. We have sports coming up. Do stay with us.
Thanks for joining me for sports. My name is Hans Mensah, and Evelyn Bedu of Azakes Ladies describes missing out on the CAF Women's Champions League title as a difficult pill to swallow. Speaking to Joy Sports, Bedu said they did everything, but Mamelodi Sundowns were the better side on the day.
Mom, Madam Zwatakusiaboaji, Mom, I love you. I'm extremely excited today.
Evelyn Bedu gave this heartwarming post-match speech after the encounter against AS Monday, where Azakes Ladies thrashed the Malians 3-0. Evelyn scored twice in that game and was adjudged the woman of the match. In this part of the world, females are not predominantly encouraged to venture into the football industry by their parents. The few who are also keen to play are also dissuaded. But the story of 19-year-old Evelyn is different.
My mom has been there for me since day one. Madam Zwatakusiaboaji, I always praise you wherever that you are. I love you. She has been there for me since day one. Because especially in Africa, it's not easy for a mother to allow her daughter to play football. But my mom has been there for me since day one. She has been supporting me every day, anytime. Especially people like at my place, people have been saying, "Hey, why are you allowing your daughter to play football?" She never listened to anything from anyone. All she knows is supporting. Really, I've really made her proud, but it's not enough for me. I have a lot to do again.
Azakes Ladies captain Janet Ejiri, who on the pitch displayed her leadership qualities and helped the club to finish second in the maiden edition of the CAF Women's Champions League, also spoke about the influence of her uncle in her career.
My uncle is the reason why I am here today. When I was in our village, he came and took me to Takrade, and he said, "There is a team in Takrade called Azakes Ladies, and he would love me to go and join them because I was playing with boys in my village." So my uncle is the reason why I'm still here.
Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa were the eventual winners of the CAF Women's Champions League, beating Ghana's Azakes Ladies 2-0 to lift the trophy. But how does it feel when you've won 2 Women of the Match awards, emerged top scorer of the tournament with 5 goals, and named the best player, but miss out on the coveted trophy?
It was not easy for me. It was very, very difficult. It was not easy. It was not easy at all. Although my main ambition to the tournament is to help my team to win the trophy. Although I won best player and top scorer, but it was not. I was not happy. I was not happy without lifting the trophy. I was not happy about it.
Azakes Ladies will now turn their attention to the 2021-2022 Women's Premier Super League as they take on Lady Strikers in the opening game of the season.
Now, Manchester United are close to appointing Ralf Rangnick as interim manager on a 6-month contract. The German is poised to join United, but will not be in charge this weekend against Chelsea while he waits for his work permit. There is more in this report.
United have agreed terms with Rangnick, but not with Lokomotiv Moscow, where he is the head of sports and development. It comes after United sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on Sunday following a trophyless 3-year spell as boss. Rangnick won the German Cup with Schalke in 2011 and took RB Leipzig to the final in 2019. During the 2010-2011 season, he guided Schalke to the semi-finals of the Champions League, where they lost 6-1 on aggregate to United, who were then beaten by Barcelona in the final. United are 8th in the Premier League, and Solskjaer, who scored the winning goal in the 1999 Champions League final for the club, was dismissed following an embarrassing 4-1 loss at Watford on Saturday. Rangnick has built an impressive coaching reputation during his time in Germany, chiefly through spells at Stuttgart, Hanover, Hoffenheim, Schalke, and RB Leipzig.
And that'll be all for now. We'll bring you more sports later in the bulletin.
And it's now time for Showbiz. And guess who is back? Drum roll. Ta-da!
Hello, I miss you
Becky
too.
is back on Showbiz.
Thank you so much.
We miss
Thank
you.
So I miss you too.
You're looking very good.
Is the accent okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can? Okay.
I can't even try.
That's okay. Well, I tried. I mean, I can't, just get an accent over.
Yeah, but you enjoyed London.
Yeah, I have family there. My beautiful family, they live there. So, yeah. I took time off too.
And what do you bring back? Not toffees, not candies, like you're tired of that?
Yes, I didn't really bring anything back, but R2Bs, they've been doing some incredible things.
And you did a lot of work even when you were supposed to be
I spoke to Stoneboy. Shout out to Stoneboy. We love you, Stoneboy.
All right, R2Bs?
Yeah, they've recently released an album, Back to Basics, but my colleague Ibrahim Bembako, he was there. Doreen Avio was there as well. So they spoke to R2Bs. And one interesting thing that I think just really realized that they haven't been really projecting Ghana to the world. And so they had a conversation with Doreen. They said, well, we've realized that we've done a great disservice to the country in terms of projecting the Ghanaian music. And so from this album release, this is what we'll be doing. We will make a conscious effort to promote Ghana.
This album is just 2 songs with Kill Beats. The title is Back to Basics because we started to record a lot with Kill Beat lately, and we thought we were going back to our original way of making music. That's why this title of the song is Back to Basics.
I mean, it makes us feel great because looking at from when we started till this very day, and the appeal is still out there, you feel me? So it really feels great. Yeah.
We were in America recently and we realized how, because we hadn't traveled in like 2-3 years, we realized how Nigeria is spearheading Afrobeats like on a crazy level right now. Nigeria is doing pretty awesome for Afrobeats, but I feel like Ghana is kind of left behind. So it's a conscious decision we've made. That's not just us, but also the younger artists we mentor. We are trying to push Ghana to like the next level. We told ourselves we are doing our country a disservice because we can really push this music to the next level.
All right.
I agree that they're doing.
So we hear them.
Yes,
now they want to push Ghana.
And I love that. I think essentially that's what I want to do. Push Ghana. When you don't laugh. When you travel, you realize that.
Tell me about it.
It's okay. That's what.
When you travel, what happens?
It's okay. And as see, so they actually released an album, and there was an album listening. We have highlights for you here.
You're so excited about it. You get me? The Godfathers, the best to ever do it. R2B's new album, Back to Basics, with the Chop Live. I'm happy this album is coming out. It's a masterpiece. It's greatness personified in the music.
To R2B's, this album means a lot to them.
Of course.
You'll be
to
with
all
them.
of us.
Okay.
To all of us.
Tell me what it means to Get Promise.
The title of the album is Back to Basics. Literally teaching us to make the music. So plenty things to learn from this album. You know what I'm saying?
What do you have to say about what you've seen tonight? The Back to Basics album.
Man, so far since I've gone here, it's been a vibe. It's like the album is great. They are legends. I appreciate them. I appreciate the work they've put in. We just, big things to say about them.
I mean, I was listening to it yesterday, and then I realized that certain samples are from certain songs that I worked on.
Are you suing them?
Oh, Charlie, this one will be family matter.
Well, how long, what volumes does it speak about our high life and songs that we have left back?
Well, it tells you that these grew up on the high life, contemporary high life music and hip life from the 90s, because it was more of samples from the late 90s and early 2000s, from Oforian Ponset Asel, from, all those songs, you know what I mean? Yep. And I am impressed. They've gone back to their roots. The highlight that quite a number of people have relegated, they've gone back to listen to what's happening in the background. This is undoubtedly one of the best songs that's going to go down as about the top 100 songs that were ever released in Ghana. This is a serious song. Strictly highlight music. So our highlight that's been relegated, let's bring it back.
Yeah, I'm so honored to be a part of the RTB's album because first of all, I'm a fan. I've been a fan of RTB since the beginning, and so this one makes me feel good. And everyone that listens to the album should listen to track number 3 because it's the best song on the album. So I keep running back to you, family up in the face,
So that's track number 3 on the Back to Basics album.
Okay.
Featuring
You're
Gaga
back
right
to
there.
base.
Yeah, I am.
From
I am
London.
back. Good to be back. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here for me.
Your fans.
I'll be back. My fans, my beautiful fans. We do have fans, right?
You bet.
Oh, we love you. I love you too. So I'll be back tomorrow with more.
Definitely. Fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Becky, for bringing us the latest in showbiz. We have more stories for you. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Johnny's Prime. The ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Gaga, is accusing government of failing to prioritize the security of the citizenry. According to the NDC, the implementation of the National Security Strategy document, which was launched by the president 5 months ago, was not captured in the budget, a situation he believes does not augur well for internal security measures. Contributing to the budget debate, Mr. Gaga argued that the country is faced with a myriad of security issues, and so government should have made available funds for the implementation of the strategic document.
Speaker, when the strategy was launched, I had occasion to indicate that the strategy was an excellent document because the Minister for National Security sought input from so many stakeholders, including the National Democratic Congress. And so we brought together our security experts and we made our input. So this document, as we see, Mr. Speaker, is nothing but a reflection of the aspirations of the people of this country to live in a safe and secure environment. But I had a word of caution for this government, that in this country we have a disease, and that the disease is the lack of implementation of very excellent laws and policies passed by our country since independence. Mr. Speaker, I therefore admonish that this document we should all take very seriously and ensure that it is implemented. I have the shock of my life, Mr. Speaker, having gone through the budget statement read by the finance minister, that there is no single paragraph in this budget statement which talks about implementation of this strategy. And yet it was launched amidst fanfare by President Akufo-Addo. He told the whole world that Ghana now had a blueprint to deal with security issues in our country. Unfortunately, this is the budget. There is no single paragraph, there is no policy statement in this paragraph which talks about implementation. And so, Mr. Speaker, are we taking our national security as a matter of priority? No. Security is not a priority for President Akufo-Addo's government. If you look at the document, the National Security Strategy, Mr. Speaker, because of the problems we have had with implementation, the framers of this document, those who crafted it, made provision for implementation. And in that particular paragraph in the strategy, indication was given that MDAs, the intelligence community, the agencies responsible for the management of our national security, would come out with budget lines for the finance ministry to implement alongside the introduction of a national security fund. Mr. Speaker, all these good ideas have been shelved because there is nothing in the budget which talks about implementation. And yet we are faced with so many threats So many threats. Our northern frontier is faced with the threat of terrorism, which is existential. Gulf of Guinea, piracy is a problem that we have to contend with. Our oil resources are embedded in the belly of the sea. And so when you have a document like this as a blueprint, you have no choice but to ensure that it is implemented. But Mr. Speaker, this is where we are. Lack of commitment in dealing with issues of national security by President Akufo-Addo.
He also asked the Inspector General of Police to channel his energies to fight armed robbery activities across the country instead of persecuting MPs.
Between 2016-2015, but in 2017, Mr. Speaker, we saw a massive surge by 27 percentage points. That was in 2017. The story was totally different in 2018. Then in 2019, Mr. Speaker, we recorded as many as 1,083 cases of robberies. In 2020, this year, Mr. Speaker, we have already recorded 1,086 cases or incidents of robbery. And so whether you are in your house, or whether you are in the streets, or whether you are traveling on our highways, Mr. Speaker, we no longer feel safe under the presidency of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. This is the reality on the ground. Mr. Speaker, it is still fresh in our minds how the deployment of the military in the 2020 elections resulted in the butchering to death of 8 innocent Ghanaians. Their only crime was that they had come out to exercise their franchise. Mr. Speaker, the Minister for the Interior told us in his submissions that there is a new sheriff in town. The new sheriff in town has the onerous responsibility to ensure that those who perpetrated the murders are not let off the hook. That is his responsibility. But Mr. Speaker, so far, what has been the track record of the new sheriff in town? He has not channeled his energy and focus on identifying and arresting the perpetrators of the murders that we witnessed in Techiman, Ablekuma Central, and elsewhere during the conduct of the 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. Rather, what he has done, Mr. Speaker, is to launch a blistering assault on parliamentary privilege and immunity.
Suspected robbers have gunned down a 44-year-old man in front of his family in the latest of robberies to rock the Ashanti region. Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko was in the area and now reports.
This area is Enyinam new site, very close to Santase behind me. Now this is where the most recent of robberies that have rocked the Ashanti region happened. And it happened in this house. And this is a picture of the gentleman who was allegedly shot or killed in front of his family. He is Michael Delali Agbokulu, who is 43 years old. Now his 1 week observation is what you see here on the poster, which is supposed to happen at KCC Park, South Centreso in Kumasi. Now we understand from accounts, different accounts given by neighbors here, that this is not the first time he was attacked by unknown assailants. It's the third time that people have come in here and tried to steal from him.
Now this
It's not clear what they stole from this house. Currently, as we speak, there is nobody in the house. We've rang the doorbell many times. There is nobody in the house. But neighbors have been speaking to us and telling us of the security situation here at the Enyinam new site.
In fact, yes, you do lighter. There's a na usru, you apart from security, in terms of security, the one has said, Kebenya, police form patrol, more conanko, mudi how can ya basa. It's a best stress. I'm a police for I hadn't say, or more audit on me, or more beba area, Habesha has here my
The death of Michael Delali Agboklu is one too many for this community to handle. People feel scared, especially they tell me when there is a power outage in the area. They are waiting for the police to solve this crime and provide more enhanced security for community members. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Santase Enyinem, Kumasi.
Away from the Ashanti region, Dean of the University of Ghana Law School, Professor Raymond Atukuba, says the proposed legal professions bill was drafted without legal education in mind. The bill drafted by the Attorney General has already been met with intense public criticism from students of law, legal analysts and trainers. Admission into the professional law school program remains a thorny issue, with thousands failing to gain admission each year. Professor Atuguba has been speaking on the matter at the UPSA Legal Conference and Mentorship Fair on the theme Law Practice in the Modern and Uncertain Era.
Geared at bringing students closer to law firms, Dean of the UPSA Law Faculty, Professor Ernest Kofi Abochi, and Supreme Court Judge Gertrude Tokonu underscored the importance of the program.
Today provides an opportunity for the first time for students of law, practitioners of law, law firms, and even judges to interact on one platform about the practice of law, and then to have a first-hand encounter with law firms who have exhibited their practice on our campus. When I became a lawyer the first day, I had to rely on familiarity to start my practice.
Justice is always according to law, and the law should always have answers in accordance with legality. This can be the only direction of law practice in a modern and dynamic world. Let's begin to engage with these realities and use the pillars to continue strengthening the rule of law. To divert to an old expression, I will say that plus ça change, plus à la même chose. No matter how much it changes, it remains the same. The ancient boundaries remain. We only build modern edifices from the stones that are already living.
Then came the question of how one gains admission into the law school.
What can we do to inherit the salvation of the law school? Ladies and gentlemen, I have good news for you. We have the director of the law school here to give us his message on how we can enter the law school.
I don't believe in protocol admissions. People must enter. We had just started the entrance exams. People must enter the law school on merit. And they said, if you can do it, do it. And that was what we did. I said that by the grace of God, from 2013 up till now, we don't have a person who has come to the law school saying, I'm the son of so-and-so, I'm the daughter of so-and-so, grant me audience. Everyone must come in on merit.
Professor Atuguba took the view that the proposed legal profession bill was drafted without legal education in mind.
In December this year, and also in March 2022, that's early next year, the conference would present concrete proposals to the Chief Justice, then the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, and the President of the Republic for initiating some change. Aside merely presenting these proposals, the conference resolved and set up technical working groups on each of the 7 matters. And these technical working groups are charged with working to realize the approval and implementation of the proposals, not just formulating the proposals. The first is on the legal profession bill. As you know, there's a legal profession bill being processed now, and it contains a number of issues. So the first technical working group is to analyze it, and from the perspective of legal education, make proposals for reform. I think the bill was drafted without legal education in mind, but you can't have a legal profession bill without taking that into account.
It's not clear whether significant changes will be made to this bill when it eventually takes center stage in Parliament. 2 other private members' bill, on the other hand, propose quite contrary radical reforms, including allowing some faculties to run the professional law program.
Commandant of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center, Major General Francis Ofori, is warning that there's a reversal of democracy in the West African sub-region. There's been at least 3 coups d'etat in Africa since 2018, with analysts warning the dangerous trend could spread to many otherwise stable countries. Now, speaking at Kofi Annan Peacekeeping and Security Forum, Major General Ofori attributed this to the flagrant disregard for term limits by some heads of state.
We also expect a number of former presidents, because this year happens to be the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. And a lot of water has gone under the bridge. We are in an era where we have democratic reversals. The situation in Mali, coup twice. We have had one in Guinea, and in the far east end of the Sahel, or IGAD if you like, Sudan. The indications that from what we heard yesterday, there's a reversal. But it's important for us to be able to take a look at the ECOWAS protocol and see its sufficiency otherwise. So by inviting some of these presidents who were signatories to the adoption, like former President Kufuor, we had invited former President Olusegun Obasanjo. We know that President Olusegun Obasanjo is involved in Ethiopia and will not be able to make it. But we have former President Kufuor, Dr. Chambers, Mr. Koyate, who was also Executive Secretary of ECOWAS at the time, to be able to tell us whether the expectations of adopting the protocol have been met. And then ultimately to find out whether this whole issue of constitutionalism, we have had, presidents tampering with term limits and all of that. And you know what has happened in Guinea. And so whether the need for reform and all of that. So at the end of it, at the end of the second day, we expect to come up with a communique and a report. And that report, we believe, will be forwarded to the presidency. That is because you are aware that our president is the chairman of ECOWAS. And so as they go in for the ECOWAS Heads of State Summit.
So the National Science and Maths Quiz now, the only female contestant in the grand finale of the quiz, believes expanded female participation in the quiz requires an increased interest in science education. Francisca Lamini of Keta Senior High School, Technical School, feels that increasing female involvement is the only way to ensure that girls win the competition. She hopes to assist her team in winning this year's quiz to motivate others, especially those at the basic level. Nanel Jima caught up with her ahead of the final contest tomorrow.
2.24 times 10 to the power -5. Yes.
That's Francisca fulfilling a childhood dream of participating in the National Science and Maths Quiz.
That was when we finished BEC 2018, and I was watching Keta School NSMQ. They were in the semi-finals, and they were doing very well. But because of one or two things, they were not able to qualify. So that time, I promised to do my best to come to Keta Senior High School and then to contest for the school so that we win the trophy.
Francisca aspires to be a medical doctor. Ahead of the grand finale of the National Science and Maths Quiz, she is practicing with her male teammates. Qualifying the school to the finals of the competition for the first time is a feat for the school, but the young lady is not satisfied. Her dream is to win the trophy to motivate other females to take up interest in studying science and, most importantly, contesting in the quiz.
This is just to show that it's not only men who can do a lot of things that can reach higher heights, that the ladies can also do better than even the men. So we are all equal and we can all put up our best to do.
Francisca says she had to forgo sleep sometimes to get into the NSMQ team and compete at the highest level. Such sacrifices she expects expects all females to make as they seek similar opportunities.
What I want to tell them is that they shouldn't underestimate themselves. They should believe in themselves and then study very hard, work very hard, and with God, everything will be okay. The females have not been given that much opportunity to show what they can do. So when given the chance, I'm sure lots of females will come up. And so we should just try and do our best, and then at the right time, everything will be okay.
From the KNUST campus for Joy News, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Let's now take you to the Kumasi campus, KNUST, the city that is hosting this year's National Science and Maths Quiz. We tell you about the new slang which is spreading through high schools there in what is fast becoming an alternative to the pidgin language, codenamed Saka or Keshe. The language mixes sounds from different popular dialects and languages, including Twi. There's also English, French, and others. Manel Cranton has been observing and has more in this report.
I bet you know. Yes, a pair you show almost say, yeah, I'm can I maybe do to buy next one I best one day. I was here in Duma.
That is Saka or Keshe, as it is sometimes called. A slang which was developed by young people right here on the streets of Kumasi to rival the popular pidgin language imported into Ghana from Nigeria.
Oh, it's from Kumasi during the America thing. Now you know that the Accra people they speak pidgin. So Kumasi want to create our own language. That's the Keshe thing. Because Kumasi, as for Kumasi, everyone can speak Twi, but now we have created our own language known as the Keshe. So people, and now the children, the parents, grandparents, like the elderly people are also speaking the language. When you go to some town like Kofum, Bremai, Ashtown, yeah, they used to speak the language, which made the language sweet.
Unlike other languages, Keshe has no exclusive alphabets or definitive sounds.
It's like when you have a word, you just take the first pronunciation of the word, then you send it to the back, and you take the back one and bring it to the forward one. So you just change it and have to speak it fast. Yeah, and when you are saying you have to change it in your mind fast. Yeah, that's how we speak the language.
So how do I say Prempeh College is going to win this contest?
Peprem Jiliko kusua ebennewe ama lela na yedu siase no. Peprem Jiliko kusua ebennewe ama lela na yedu siase no.
What? Okay, break it down. Break it down for me now.
Peprem Jiliko Prempeh College.
Okay, no, so I get the Prempeh Legico. Prem Jeliko. And then what? Yekusu. What does that mean?
School.
Codenamed Saka, the reverse of the Akan word Kasa, which translates as to speak. The language is the stock in trade of a new wave of young musicians in Kumasi, including Shan Black, Zamani, Papa Kumasi, and the popular Asaka Boys, whose American music took the country by storm in 2020. Acting only as a street code, the Keshe language is now a symbol of pride that many people in Kumasi yearn to be associated with, especially high school students.
The language that is Keshe, I feel attracted to Keshe. I have the passion to learn it, but I feel difficult to learn it. And sometimes when I see my friends speaking that particular language, I feel happy, but I feel left out.
I would like to learn it because if I see someone speaking it, like it's nice and what the way they implement, the way what they speak it is very good.
Prayer is that God will help us and give the children and the elderly people the knowledge to speak the language, because the language now is becoming the whole thing in Kumasi. Not only in Kumasi, but some of the Accra people also speak the language. Now the pidgin too, Kumasi people speak the pidgin, and now Accra people are also learning how to speak the Keshe thing.
For now, the language is spreading in Kumasi like wildfire.
Maybe you should learn it, because I have.
To report for A Joyce New, Norma Tinkran.
SH Ebewene. I tried. I tried, and remember that the National Science and Maths quiz is produced by Perimeter Unlimited and sponsored by the Ghana Education Service in partnership with APSA. The broadcast of the quiz on Joy News is supported by Cowbell, Puppet Pizza, Tampico, DBS Industries Limited, Kings Group Limited, U-Lesson, Ace Medical Insurance, Dole Yogurt, and Smart App. The grand finale is tomorrow here on Joy News on Radio 99.7 FM and online. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories, business and sports. Stay with us.
Now, as part of Talo Ghana's commitment to develop and support the growth of local companies to attain international standards in the marine sector, the oil exploration firm has commissioned the MV Flat Confident. Now, this is the first Ghanaian-owned flagged marine vessel to support offshore activities in the oil and gas industry in Ghana. The historic commission was done at the port of Takoradi following the successful offshore vessel inspection database. We have more in this report.
Talo Ghana Limited identified an opportunity to help local businesses to partner it in fulfillment of its local content policy by way of its shared prosperity agenda. Today, that company is a locally Ghanaian-owned company with the first of its kind to own a ship and to have 100% Ghanaian crew on board. This is a great effort towards the achievement of the local content policy. The MV Flat Confidence was acquired by Flat Sea Marine Offshore Limited, following a long-term contract granted by Talo Ghana to the company that enabled them to raise finances to procure the vessel. Deputy Managing Director for Talo Ghana, Cynthia Lumo, is optimistic of the fortunes of Flat Confidence.
This particular vessel has been equal to any other vessel of its nature as far as international standards are concerned. So in respect of the anchor support, the emergency support, the supply support, the support of the camp buoy operations, all of that will continue. Able to provide these services for Jubilee and 10 services, but as necessary, as required. Any other vessel in the oil and gas industry offshore that requires their services, they should be able to support.
The 71-meter long and 19-meter wide vessel will be operational in the western region of Ghana and will support the work of Talo Ghana's 2 FPSOs, Kwame Nkrumah and John Evans Atta Mills, over the years. Talo and its partners have succeeded in empowering and supporting Ghanaian businesses to participate in the oil and gas industry. Western Regional Minister Kobna Ochreda Komensa, delivering his welcome address, implored both parties to respect the terms that govern the agreement for a sustained relationship. He is proposing that a special share offer should be given to the people of the Western region to be part owners of the company.
I wish to therefore employ both parties to respect the terms that govern the agreement for a sustained relationship, and as well instill confidence in other entities to emulate same. So I believe that after Talo, Anadako will follow, Cosmos will follow, and even the smaller ones would also follow. Whilst we acknowledge that this intervention from Talo and its partners to Flat Sea Marine Offshore Limited is unprecedented on the local front, we believe that it should be the beginning of more transformational interventions going forward. We are therefore proposing that a special concessionary share offer should be given to the people from the Western region, individuals and businesses, to be part owners of the company.
Deputy Minister for Energy Andrew Zejapa Mesa, on his part, said he is confident that the commission of the vessel is the beginning of greater things in Ghana's local content development agenda.
The commissioning of the first ever fully Ghanaian-owned vessel which will operate in Ghana waters and fly the Ghana flag. The socio-economic benefits of a robust local content policy in any economy cannot be underestimated. Regrettably, however, these efforts have largely not yielded the desired results. Indeed, the effectiveness of our local content policy has depended to a very large extent on the capacity of local individuals to take up opportunities that are available to them in the sector. This has largely been absent.
In 2020, Talu Ghana embarked on an initiative to develop the local capacity of the oil and gas industry through the adoption of the marine sector with the aim of creating opportunities for indigenous Ghanaian companies to own and operate vessels to support the oil and gas industry. At the same time, the initiative is targeted to upskill the capacity of Ghanaian personnel for joy business in Athalia Kwanza, Western Region.
Gas Company Limited has stressed that it will not shy away from routine engineering and maintenance of machines and equipment as its gas processing station at Atuabo in the Western Region. The head of corporate communications, Ernest Owusu-Bempah, insisted that engineering and maintenance works are only the guarantee to the integrity of processing plant and will continue to do so in accordance with international best practices.
The Ghana National Gas Company in October this year shut down its processing plant at Atuabo to allow for routine engineering and maintenance works. The scheduled 14 days works, inconsistent with previous shutdowns, is to enhance the capacity for uninterrupted productivity, while also prolonging the lifespan of machines and equipment. The works involved installation of high-integrity pressure systems, replacement of small-bore piping, and heat exchange cleaning.
Under no circumstances will anybody sit down and think that the processing plant is just there and it has to be there functioning without consistent maintenance culture. It is very important that any other day the processing plant can be shut down because of consistent maintenance protocols that we need to follow. So today, if the plant, we give a timeline that we are doing maintenance and we feel that we need to shut down to make sure that everything is on point before we go ahead to bring back the plant, we can do so, and the engineers can tell you all over the world is there.
However, the scheduled time for the engineering and maintenance work has elapsed. Since then, there has been speculation over the delay and its consequences on power generation. Head of Corporate Communication for the Ghana Gas Company, Ernest Owusu-Bempah, admits to the delay and explains why.
Gas supply to our Atuabo processing plant was curtailed by a triggering emergency shutdown, according to our engineer, which is a layer of control of activation due to increased leakage of gas cloud buildup from one of the gas to gas heat exchanger, flanked currently under what they were trying to put together to make sure that those heat to heat exchanger will be dealt with, because I mean it can happen in any department where you do plant maintenance and you feel that maybe gas to heat to gas exchanger, there is a slight leakage there that we need to address.
Nevertheless, Mr. Owusu-Bempah assured that there are other reliable options available in terms of gas supply to power generating plants in the country. For Joy Business, in Athalia Kwanza, Western Region.
And that'll be all for business. I'm Charles Aita. We'll leave you with international business summaries, after which sports comes next. Do stay with us.
That's our show for tonight. Many thanks for your company. Please log on to myjoyonline.com. You'll find more stories there. I'm Ernest Mino.